So me and Sarah are at our second church in Franklin, North Carolina, and my pastor one day says, hey, I want you to go preach at Highlands First Assembly of God. Now that sounds like a really big church. There were 10 people there, okay? When I say I was unqualified, that was not the issue. I preach. I enjoy preaching. It's fun. But when I got there, there was a lady, and her name was Betty. Everybody say Betty. Betty was a white-haired lady about 81 years old, and she looked at me, and she told me, she said, our piano player's not here today, and she usually leads worship, okay? I need you to lead worship. I kid you not, I had this conversation. I said, Betty, you lead worship. For which the 81-year-old lady says, no, you're going to do it. Yes. My 24-year-old self did not win that little argument that day. Here's the problem. Like, we have the lights. We have the sound here. We have CD players. We can play off the computer. We've got videos and stuff. This place didn't even have an 8-track player. I mean, there was not a recorder that I could stick a disc on. And there wasn't even a microphone. And guys, I don't have to tell you, I'm not capable of playing the piano. I got one of those fake pianos. Like, this is not near as nice as this. And as a kid, I thought I was cool because I bang on the keys. I'm like, hey, I can play Jaws. I mean, you know. But that's it. And so what I do is I grab the hymnal book and I pick the 3 songs that I knew, and I get up like this and I start singing and nobody's crying. I'm like, all right, I'm all right. Okay. You know why they weren't crying? Because they didn't have to do it, okay? So, you don't like my singing? Then you get up here, okay? Ain't nobody taking that offer, okay? So I get to the first song. I can't tell you what it was, but the second song was Amazing Grace because I knew it, and we sang Amazing Grace. I sing it at all the funerals, so I figured I could pull this off. Then we get to the third song, and I love this song. I still love this song, and Sarah's laughing because she was there. And I sing How Great Thou Art, okay? I kid you not, there was another 80-year-old man jumps up beside me. Where's JC? JC, he jumps up beside me with a guitar. I didn't even see this guy at the beginning of service. There were only 10 people. How could I not see this guy? And he jumps up beside me, he starts playing. Here's the problem. He is not playing How Great Thou Art. I don't know what he's playing. How great thou art. And I'm singing. Then sings my. And he's playing. I don't know what he's playing. And I'm doing this. What are you doing? That's what I'm saying inside 24-year-old me. And I don't know if it was the presence of the Lord or lightning or mercy from God, but at the very last chorus, he starts playing the right song. I'm like, why couldn't we have done this the whole time, man? And where did you come from? Did that happen? There's no embellishment. That really happened. If you're in ministry, you get to have fun stories. But that day, I am very unqualified to lead worship. There's a reason JC sang today and not me. There's a reason. Because all of you would have already been gone and I would have had nobody to preach to. I need somebody who will volunteer, who will be very patient with me. Very patient. And I'm not going to slap. Nobody is raising their hand. That's okay. Craig, you were very interested before service, and I'm going to believe the presence of the Lord's going to come over you. And you were so curious in my illustration that I want you to sit at that table right there. You're going to be here the whole sermon. Everybody give Craig a clap. Yeah. God give Craig patience for what I'm about to do to him in Jesus' name. Amen. Craig and I are friends, and hopefully at the end of this, we'll still be friends. Craig, my kids love Legos. They love Legos. In fact, I'm going to tell you a secret about me if you hadn't heard it on the radio when Stephen threw me out to dry. Steven Spiegel, I'm calling you out. Every month when I'm home, I take my kids to Lego Club at the library, okay? This is not for my kids. This is for my therapy. So I go and I get them a plate of Legos, and they get a plate of Legos, and I'm a grown 38-year-old man sitting there building. It is good for my soul, okay? I leave that place feeling rejuvenated and healed in the Lord's. I build houses, and they're on display, but I never sign my age on there. And so if you want to walk in the Gunnersville Library, my Lego's there, just a little thing. It says Seth, but it doesn't say my age because I'm embarrassed that I'm 38 and building a Lego. So, but in saying that, I bought a Lego for my kids. Here's the problem, Craig. I need it built. Okay. Yes. So ready, go. You just go. Go ahead and build what I need you to build me. You got this. He thinks he knows what I'm building. Okay. You hadn't seen anything, right? No, it's okay. Good. We're gonna see if Craig can build what's in my head, and I really didn't talk to him about this other than the reason that he can't touch the Legos before service. But there's a story in the Bible that kind of begins like this in Exodus chapter 3, 1 through 10. And it says, one day Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro. Everybody say Jethro. The priest of Midian, he led the flock far into the wilderness, and he came to Sinai in the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him. Y'all know this, in a blazing fire from the middle of a bush. Okay. Now imagine yourself, right? You're hanging out in the woods in Alabama, and you walk up to a bush and it's on fire, but it's not burning up. I mean, some people may see this, but I've never seen that before, so this is weird. And so Moses stared in amazement, as you would, through the bush. Though the bush was engulfed in flames, it didn't burn up. This is amazing, right? This is Moses because he's human. This is amazing. Moses said to himself, why isn't that bush burning up? I must go see it, right? When the Lord saw Moses coming to take a closer look, God called to him from the middle of the bush, Moses. Moses, and Moses replies, here I am. Moses is like, this is weird. A bush is talking to me, right? Do not come any closer, the Lord warned. Take off your sandals, for you're standing on holy ground. Keep going. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. When Moses heard this, he covered his face because he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord told him, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. That's important. I have seen the oppression of the people in Egypt. I've heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I'm aware of their suffering. Let's stop right there for a second. So often in life, we think God doesn't see, hear, or know what's going on. He doesn't feel close, so he must not be close. But God hears the cries of his people. We live in a nation of people that are crying out in desperation to have a sound mind and not depression. We live in a world of people that are desperate and empty and hurting. And they're crying out in the middle of the night, and they're like, I don't know where to go. I don't know who to go to. And they're crying out to God. So I've come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey. The land where the Canaanites, all the ites, and Jebusites now live. Keep going. Look, the cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abused them. Now listen. God hears. So what is God's reaction? Moses, now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. There's always a cry. God hears the cry, but then you're the answer. Let's talk about that. Craig, what do you need to accomplish what I need you to accomplish over here? You need some instructions. I think that would be pretty good right here. I think I have some instructions. So I need you to build me this spaceship right there. There's the instructions. That'll help you. You were kind of right. You said plane. It's a space shuttle. So if you'll open those up and just build what I need you to build, there's instructions. In fact, Craig, not only that, I'm going to give you a really pretty picture. This is the box it came in. So now you know exactly what it's supposed to look like, right? That helped, didn't it? Can you? So don't we sometimes feel like, Craig, it's not that we don't want to make a difference. Sometimes we don't know if we fully understand what God's asking of us, right? We don't completely understand the objective, right? And secondly, we don't feel qualified enough. Now, Craig was doing actually a really good job. He was doing a good job with what I gave him, and he was kind of on target, but he was missing the target. Why? Because he wasn't reading the instructions. And I like what you did at the beginning. He never even asked for them. How often do we not even ask God for the instructions because we really don't want to do the task? If we ask and seek for the instructions, He'll give them. And He'll even give us the picture. But we still have to build, right? We have to, there's an action-reaction thing. God tells you to do it. You have to do something. You have to be a part of it. See, don't we sometimes feel like, Craig? Don't we want to make a difference? Sometimes it's not that we don't, it's we fully don't know what He's asking. And secondly, we don't feel qualified enough. I assure you, whether we know it or not, if we'll seek hard enough, the instructions will appear. Hasn't it always been the cry of the people, though, just like I said, that has moved the heart of God? Even though we're not in Egypt, the cry of the people still exists. And you're the answer. Who, me? You. Me? So why me? So why me? Shouldn't I be qualified to be used? Shouldn't I be qualified to be used? Don't I need a degree? That's the next slide right there. Shouldn't I be qualified to be used? And Moses asked the same question. You're in good? Yes. Don't tell me that. It's that one right there. Yes. You're welcome. I'm sorry. So Moses asked the question, Exodus chapter 3:13. He says, but Moses protested, if I go to the people of Israel and tell them, the God of our ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is this? And can you hear Moses like, what? Yeah, you know why he's afraid? Because he grew up in the house of Pharaoh. He knows the power of Pharaoh. He knows as he walks up to Pharaoh, it better be God or he's dead. Right? The God of your ancestors has sent me to you. They will ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? Right? Moses doesn't just stop there and God tells him to tell him he's I am. And after God asks it, tells him what to say in Exodus 4:1, he's not completely satisfied. But Moses protested again. Have y'all ever been Moses? What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say the Lord never appeared to you? Right? I love this. This is great. And again in Exodus 4:10, just 10 verses later, Moses, he answers him again, but Moses pleaded with the Lord. He tells him, That's the answer to that question, in case you don't read the Bible enough, and I'm not criticizing you, is that he gave him a staff that turned into a snake, and he told him to put his hand in his pocket, and it brought out, and it turned to leprosy, and then he healed it because he's the God of the universe, and he said, pour the water out, and I'll turn it into blood. And so you know why? Because God's got the answer. He's got the answer. It's not about your qualifications. Verse 4 through 10. But Moses pleaded with the Lord, oh Lord, I'm not very good with my words. Right? I never have been. And I'm not now. Even though you have spoken to me, I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled. And God tells him, I made your mouth, son. How many times do we have oppositions? How many times do we have questions? We're not qualified. What was the latest excuse that you gave to God? What's the last is the next slide. What's the last excuse you gave to God? What's the last... I want you to think about that seriously, because I'm not going to act super spiritual and tell you that I don't give them to God. What's the last thing you told God you can't or you won't do? A lot of times it's not a qualification thing. It's just that's scary. I don't really want to do it. Right? That's scary. I don't know that I really want to do that. And so God's use of you has nothing to do with your position or your prominence. No, God takes all the way from slave people to kings and uses them in the Bible. But almost everybody but Jesus is very unqualified. Even Elijah, who got taken up in heaven, was scared to death hiding in a cave at one point. Your qualifications, your position, and your prominence have nothing to do with God's use of you. Right? So God has called all of us to make a difference for him. From the second we accept Jesus, the immediate next step in your Christian walk, the next step of our process is a mandate to make a difference. It's not a question. In fact, it's the last words that Jesus said to us. Go into the world, preach the gospel. Just like he read in John, like, hey, ask in my name and I'll do. Greater things will you do than me? That's an awesome thing. But how do we do greater things than he did? We actually have to do them. We have to try. We have to be available. So won't God use someone else if I stay back? Won't God use somebody else and just stay back? If I just stay back? For which I want to ask you, are you a situational Christian or is it a lifestyle for you? You know what I mean by situational. Like, you reach out to God when you're in trouble. You reach out to God when you need him. When you need a Santa Claus, you're there. But when it gets tough, I'm out. And I'm not accusing any of you of this. I think we all deal with this from time to time because God asks hard things sometimes. In other words, do we follow Christ in his commands only when things are good and comfortable, even on a lighter level, or do we try to live out the things he asks us to do? When's the last time you prayed for somebody who was sick? When's the last time you spoke his name at work? See, when Jesus comes into our life, he radically changes it. It's hard to have such a major transformation and not talk different and live different than everybody else in your office, everybody else in your household, everybody else on your campus. It's hard to have a radical change like that and him not be the answer to your solutions. And you live different and talk different and speak different and be on a different level, right? When Jesus comes in our life, he radically changes it. It just takes a second of observance at work, at school, in the community, and for some of you at home to realize we live in such a broken world, it needs a put-together Savior. And I'm not talking about you because you're never going to be completely put together, but he is. And it doesn't matter who you are, it matters who he is. It didn't matter who Moses was. It mattered who I am was. It mattered who God was, right? It wasn't what Moses could do. Moses didn't do the plagues. He was just the vessel. The God of the universe took a man who was terrified and had a stutter, and he used him to make the king of the planet at the time bow his knee to the God of the universe. God wants to use you. It takes just a second to realize that this world needs you. I like to put the ball in my court. What if I don't share? I don't want to take the chance that somebody receives salvation if I shut my mouth. They might get somebody. Somebody might speak to them. And I'm not saying God won't do that, but it's the mandate that God put on my life. The people that surround my life are different than the people that surround Dale's life. I will stand in rooms that Dale will never stand in. Dale will stand in rooms with people that I will never meet. Mike will be with people that I will never meet for the rest of my life. I said this in a sermon, I don't even know when, because, I've been enamored by Billy Graham and his effectiveness, and he's one of the greatest preachers of all time, and I don't doubt that millions of people got saved, but let me say this. You're going to be in rooms that Billy Graham will never be in. And for those people, it's a life or death situation. And it's on you. It's not somebody else's job, it's mine. So what if I don't share and live the gospel where God placed me? Who hurts because of my refusal to be Jesus at my workplace? Who is hurting because I shut my mouth? When I'm at work and I hear somebody crumble and crying because they're going through the hardest time in their life, why didn't I pray for them? Everybody say this, I'm the solution. Who, me? And it doesn't matter if you have credentials or prominence or placement or money. It doesn't matter what house you live on. It doesn't matter where you're placed. God wants to use you. So whose life is dependent on your obedience to being used? Now, you've probably heard something like this, but I'm leaking here. Somebody's going to need to take this in a minute. So y'all just look at this right here. Imagine with me, if you will. I'm going to have one of y'all take this when I'm done. In that glass, I picked that one because it looks like a beaker, is the cure for cancer. I discovered it. And it's my cure to cancer. How many of you have ever known somebody or you've dealt with cancer yourself? How much is that worth? Somebody. How much would people pay for that? How much? Billions, trillions. How many of you have ever suffered for it? With it? What would you do for that? One sip and you're healed. It can't be duplicated, and it's only there. But here's the deal. It's my cure. I want that. I paid for that. That was my hard work. So you know what? I don't have cancer. There's nothing wrong with me, but I'm keeping it. And none of you can have it. So now what do you think about me? Talk to me. Be honest. What? Raise your hands. I want people to hear you. Selfish? Somebody else. How do you feel about me? Evil? Somebody else. Y'all throw whatever you want. It's fine as long as y'all don't cuss at me. How do you feel about me right now? Huh? Hard-hearted. Offended. Yeah? Here's the deal. Yes. Okay. So let me ask you this. You got a cure greater than this. It's for sin. Cancer kills the body. And you still don't tell your friends. So what did you say I was? What am I? Selfish? What did y'all say I was? So when we don't spread the gospel, we're what? It's worse than cancer. But we're okay with it. You said it, I didn't. Cancer kills your body. Sin kills your soul. I like that. So why do we hold so tightly to the cure when we're the answer? Why are we okay? Because we really care about our prominence and our position. We really like that we don't have conflict at work because of the gospel. If we talk about the gospel, then I'm risking my job, and it might be a little uncomfortable. But what are we? What are we, Mike? What'd you say I was, Michelle? What'd you say, Natasha? Huh? Dale? What am I? Huh. How about that? Cole, will you take this away before it pours out on the floor? I want you to ask yourself this question, be brutally honest with yourself. Let's imagine, if you will, that you're the only real Christian at home, the only example of Christ at work, the only Jesus anyone in your community ever sees. How important is it that you're no longer situational in your Christianity? In fact, whose life depends on you? I thought he'd be done by now. That's okay. I did. I believed in you, Craig. He's going to finish that one day. If your gospel isn't touching others through you, it hasn't truly touched you. I'll let you off, but I need you to finish that for my kids for real. And if we'll just listen to the instructions, if we'll actually, some of us, just seek after Him, we'll get the next step. You know, Christianity and making it who's me and about me, not about me in a selfish way, about me as in people's salvation is on me. You know, not their salvation, but the presentation. It's on me. God placed me in this room. He better use me. I better let Him use me. See, if we'll seek the instructions, this is what Craig will build eventually. He's so good. You're doing good, actually. I can see the front of it. The cargo bay is being put together. Thank you. My kids will appreciate you. They're going to be flipping out excited because of you. Yeah. But But if we'll seek the instructions, if we'll ask, he'll give them to us. And it may not be listen, I think we wait for this spiritual end result. We want the end, he's still working on it. We want the end result. We don't want to put in the work. Right? Asking for help like he did. I didn't ask him to do that. Sometimes along the way we got to ask for help. But it all starts with, everybody say this with me, the next step. And it's not complicated all the time. Tomorrow I'll be in 3 schools. It started with steps I took 8 years ago, 9 years ago. I'm allowed to speak to students and help lead them at Guntersville High School. You know what? Because of bringing pizza 9 years ago. Why? Because it's the first step God gave me. It wasn't spiritual. Here's pizza and donuts. Which eventually led to let's feed the football team. Which eventually led to let's pass out waters to kids who come into this campus when there's an emergency drill. Hey, let's give those teachers donuts. Let's give them coffee. Let's bring in a school assembly speaker. Let's show up to the FCA meetings. I don't care if I get to talk or not. Which eventually led to, hey, will you please talk to these students? Which led to last year, will you lead CU at the poll? Every step leads to the next one. Every moment God takes you, and let me tell you, if you start following those steps, it's exhilarating. There's not a time that I walk on a campus that I'm not like, yes! I don't care if I got an Instagram post or picture. I don't care if they give me a microphone. Now kids walk up and high-five me and put their arms around me. It's like I got a youth group in the school. I don't care if I ever get a microphone. I'm just following the steps. You open the door, I'll walk in it. 2 days, 3,500, 4,000 students. It all came from the Varsity Radio Show 3 years ago. We're on TV now. That's not a bragging thing. I talk to coaches weekly. I couldn't get anybody to even pay attention to me year one. Why? Because if you follow the steps, God will take you on the most exhilarating, awesome, incredible adventure of your life. If you'll do the things he says, you'll pray for the sick and they'll be healed. You'll pray for the demon-possessed and they'll have to leave. You'll pray for people who have sound mind issues and he'll give them a sound mind. Are y'all getting this? This is good. But we got to pray for the instructions. We got to do the work. We got to follow through the next step. When you follow through the next step, he'll give you the next step, and the next step, and the next step, and the next step. And I promise, if you keep following, at the end of your life, when you're at the last breath, there's not going to be a whole lot of regrets. Your only regrets is, I didn't start this sooner. We all know how the story of Jesus, of Moses ends. What does he do? The coward that stutters and can't keep his mouth together and he's worried becomes one of the boldest men of God in the Bible, who leads millions through the desert, who deals with a lot of whining people. He did, with the help of God. Sometimes God wiped him out for him, let him start all over again, That man, that coward that stood in front of the bush was the same man that put his staff in front of the Red Sea and watched it part and killed the entire Egyptian army. That man that was a coward. You know why? Because Moses just took the next step. I'm terrified. I'm going to the leaders of Israel. How are they going to believe me? They're not. Look, I didn't even grow up in the same household as them. I know I'm from the same tribe, but they're not even going to accept me. How am I going to do this, God? And God gives him the words. He just speaks the words. And what's the next thing? He's standing in front of Pharaoh. Who gets to stand in front of the President of the United States? Whether you like him or not, that's a hard job to get to. That's a hard place to be. But because of his past, he probably had a little more prominence to move forward, even though he was in trouble. With a stepbrother or whatever that he got to grow up with, right? He had a little more mercy on Moses than he probably would your average day Joe, right? I'm just asking you to take the next step.
Again, thank you for joining us for the message today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to respond to the message or reach out to us for any reason, just hit the response link in the comments below. Have a blessed day.